Hello, hello. Day drinking with David. We are back again. Sorry we started the session a bit late today. Just been jam packed. Very excited to have Edwin Cruz of Basil Hayden. He is going to talk about the new Basil Hayden toasted barrel. Toasted barrels are so hot right now. Oh my god, dude! Everybody's toasting their barrels. Yeah, you really just can't get enough toasted barrel, and yeah, we're getting toasted. We're getting toasted barrels. Edwin Cruz should be here any moment. Hansel's so hot right now. Well, how's everybody? Thanks for coming out. I still haven't picked that Blanton's selection. It will happen this afternoon. I'm so sorry. How do you like your toast? You know, I'm Swiss. I was born in Switzerland. So my favorite thing is like the weird Swiss like version of memo. Oh, here we go. Edwin's here. It's called Cenevis. Don't eat it. You'll hate it. Here he comes. Did that work, Edwin? Oh, here we are. Amazing.
Hey, how's it going, David?
So well. How are you, brother?
Not too bad. Just
Thanks for being
getting over the
here.
heat.
It's yeah. It was so nice for a few days in LA, and now it's just blaring hot out. So luckily, I don't have to do this outside again. I was able to sequester myself in the Italian aisle, which is not very heavily trafficked on Thursdays afternoons.
Well, at least you found a good
Uh,
spot. I was gonna go sit out in the little patio, but nope, I had to
Not
migrate
happening.
inside.
Where are you based?
I'm in
You're in LA?
LA. I'm in K-Town.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Not far off.
No,
We
no,
maybe even could have done this together and
I know. Yeah,
in in
we should
person,
have
but
coordinated. Yeah.
it actually is. It's nice to see your little bar back there. That's cool. Hey, tell me about yourself, man. Thanks for being here, but I don't really know anything about you. So how'd you
Yeah.
get into bourbon? Yeah, what's your deal?
Thanks, man. Yeah. So, like local, born and raised in Los Angeles. I lived all over the West Coast in Oregon, Northern California, and I grew up in the restaurant business. My parents had restaurants growing up, so I was always, from a young age, I was always really fully immersed in hospitality.
Nice.
Um, Ran bars for several years in Los Angeles in my like late 20s after college, and about 3.5 years ago, I started working. About 4 years ago now, I started working with Beam as kind of their local rep. And just recently, in the last like 3 or 4 months, I was promoted to West Coast American Whiskey Ambassador for the James B. Beam Distilling Company. So
Great,
really excited
great.
about that, and excited to talk about
Congratulations.
one of the names on the door and all the cool brands that come attached to the distillery. And yeah, that was like my 30-second version of me. And of course, I love bourbon and spirits, as you can tell. I love
Oh yeah.
tiki and bourbon. That's the
Well, you
primary things
have
that
to
are.
come with us. I'd say Beam is a fun visit. I mean, you've done it, I'm sure, 100 times, but there ain't nothing better than having them roll out barrels there and in the warehouse. That said, you know what I've never seen is the Basil facility in Frankfurt. I don't know that
Yeah,
they like people being in there, but if you ever get a chance, we're interested. Basil, one of the great brands in the Beam portfolio, and one of the few like really actually different whiskeys than all the other things out there are the same mash bill. Tell us a little bit about Basil Hayden and what makes it special and different from the rest of the great Beam product.
yeah. Like Basil Hayden's, at the distillery, Fred and Freddie like to say they make bourbon for everybody. So Basil Hayden's is kind of that introductory, like we like to think about it as that introductory bourbon, that bourbon that can be sessionable, that you want to take along with you when you're hanging out with friends. As much as I love drinking really high proof bourbons and single barrels, having something that I can drink on a consistent basis that's a little bit easier to drink, a little bit lighter, a little bit more. I love using the word sessionable because I really feel that Basil Hayden's embodies that idea of sessionability. It tends to be a go-to for me, like on a daily basis. I'm not afraid in the afternoon
Mm.
to pour myself just a little bit and have a little sip with lunch, as opposed to like some of our other amazing products like Knob Creek, that it's going to be more of like an evening drinking bourbon for me. Um, But what really sets Basil Hayden apart is the idea that we can use that as an introduction to bourbon for a lot of people. It ends up being their
Mm.
first bourbon, and also a vehicle for us to test out new ideas, which is kind of what Basil Hayden's Toast and dark rye, Caribbean cask have all been. It's really
A lot of
experiments with.
experimentation in the brand. Yeah,
Yes,
these are. I have to say, my first whiskey was the Jim Beam Rye in handles in the old Yellow Label.
nice.
In college, I was 21. I assure you. But Basil was a close second, and Basil Unique though it says Frankfurt on the back. It's one of the few products from there. There's obviously a facility there over not too far from where the old Crow distillery was, down by the river. And I'm just wondering, what is that? What is the difference between that? Like, what do they do at the Frankfurt facility? Do you have any ideas of that? I know it's just a bottling hall and some warehouses, but
Right.
what makes different? Like, is this qualitatively different than Knob Creek? Is it a different mash bill? Is it different warehouses? What's the difference?
So the way that I like to think about what happens in our different distilleries is that we're really working off of for everything in the small batch collection, we're working off that same yeast strain. So there's really two yeast strains in our families. There's a yeast strain that's really controlling all the classic bean products from Jim Beam, Knob Creek, Basil Hayden's, Booker's, Baker's, all that cool stuff. And then you've got that separate yeast strain that's really controlling or that's governing the flavor profile of the olds, Old Overhold, Old Crow, Old Grandad. What really sets the Basil Hayden's apart is really the location in the warehouses and the rick houses where it's being aged. So if we think about the warehouses as like really a circular kind of shape, you've got Jim Beam on the outside, so on floors. Essentially, all of our warehouses are 9 floors. So you're mainly pulling Jim Beam from floors 9, from floors 1, 2, and 8, and from there you start layering in. So as we move closer to the center, to those honey barrels, we're starting to pull Knob Creek, and then right in between Knob Creek and all the other like single barrels, you're going to find Basil Hayden. So Basil Hayden's and Knob Creek really take up that second, third layer of barrels. So they're a little bit more protected from the elements. You're going to have a little bit more of consistent flavor profile barrel to barrel. You're going to have less of that environmental impact that's going to affect the outcome of each of those barrels. And at the end of the day, you're going to just create a more like subtle, nuanced, refined, consistent flavor in, especially with what you find with Basil Hayden's. So in reality, that's that our operation in Frankfurt doesn't do anything different from our Claremont location. It's just really like an extension of our distillery. And right now we're working on really rolling all that innovation together at the new Booker No distillery that's going to be in Claremont. And I mean, right now the distillery is undergoing a huge transformation. There's restaurants opening up. There's a new visitor center that's opening, and then there's going to be an innovation center.
That. Very cool.
Yeah, and that area is going to be really cool because that's going to be really our central hub where all these cool things are going to come out of now.
Are they still doing any warehousing down in Frankfurt, or is it only bottling? It wasn't clear when I was driving by whether they were still warehousing barrels there.
So to my knowledge, it's just bottling.
Okay. And so it's same mash bill, same yeast strain as Knob Creek and all the other ones, whereas Old Overhold, those are the same mash bill, but different yeast strain or a different mash bill?
Different yeast strain.
Different yeast strain, same mash bill.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Except for toast, which is what makes toast really interesting. So this is where we start introducing the depth of layers, right?
Yeah. And a cool new package. Look at that, man.
Right.
Like,
yeah. Exactly.
Hip. Cork stopper, very.
Yeah, you got the cool new band. I mean, the bib is gone, but with it comes just the more prominent. Why am I blanking out on what this is called? A belt. Sorry.
Which one? What is it called?
It's a more prominent belt.
Oh yes, the belts. Yeah.
As opposed to the last belt, which is a lot thinner and smaller. We've got the comparison of that 10-year with the new updated bottling cap, a little bit more refined.
Yeah.
But really, like, I'd love to tell you a little bit more about Basil Hayden's Toast because that's really the most. It's something that we're pulling from tradition, but we're also doing something new with it. So really, the idea was to recreate the idea of Basil Hayden's with a new mash bill.
Oh, really?
So
I didn't
this,
realize it was a new mash bill. That's great news.
yeah. So this is this is one of the very first permanent lineups for Basil Hayden's, and it's made up of a U.S. brown rice mash bill. So we're taking corn. You know, traditionally bourbon is corn, rye, malted barley.
Right.
That's what we normally pull from. So for Basil Hayden's toast, we're going corn, rice, malted barley,
Oh,
and
corn,
then
rice, malted barley.
we're
So no
finishing
rye.
no rye, and so we're finishing this 40% of the new mash bill in toasted barrels. So you've
Oh, and
got
you have the
the
calories on the back now. That's very clever.
and we got the calorie count, yes.
It's not as bad as I would have thought. Um, there you go. That's interesting. So this is using that rye mash bill because there were some experimentations, those weird little Jim Beam experiments. Back, oh god, that must have been 4 or 5 years ago, where there may have been some rice distillates or rice bourbons,
Correct.
and they've really committed to that. I don't know how I missed that detail. It doesn't mention it on the bottle though, does it? Or am I missing it?
Um,
No, I don't think it does. That's so interesting. I
yeah,
don't
that is
blame you. I mean,
interesting.
it's probably a new thing for people to wrap their head around. And honestly, what matters is the way it tastes, not how it's made. And so the toast is then another step, obviously, right?
Correct. Yeah. So we're taking this brown rice mash bill that's unique to this Basil Hayden's toast. We're aging it for 5 years, and then we're aging approximately 40% of that mash bill. So 60% of it is just going to be straight 5 years, and then the other 40% is going to be finished for an additional 9 weeks in lightly toasted barrels with
Okay.
seasoned staves for 18 that have been seasoned for 18 months. So we're, you know, rather than taking those 15, 20 seconds to char that barrel, we're doing it over the span of a couple minutes, and then finishing it with a level 1 char.
Mm.
You know, we just want those like really subtle notes and flavors to really come through. We want that brown rice to really come through in the mash bill, and it's still, we wanted to still taste like Basil Hayden's, but it was really an idea that we were taking something that we've already done in the past. Like as you mentioned, there's already been, you know, like I think those are called like distillers masterpieces.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
yeah,
exactly right. Those were long ago. I think must have been three,
L-
4 years ago now. Maybe
long ago,
maybe
yeah.
longer.
And we've been using brown rice and other things like Little Book Number Five also had a little bit of brown rice.
Mm.
Um, but this is the very first product that where we're really like taking a new mash bill and experimenting with it, and like makes for a very like chewy, caramel forward product that has even more depth than your classic Basil Hayden's.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's hard to tell. There's definitely that unique character, and it's not as just pure. Like some of the toasted barrels we have are that very like very sweet addition, and and this definitely has sweetness, but there's this richer, darker backbone here that I really like, and it's hard to tell if it's the brown rice or the toast or just the two of them kind of coming together here on that kind of subtly different character. Yeah, it's a very interesting problem. There's some sort of tropical fruit on the nose too. It's got a lot going on for an 80 proof, or well, it's almost 6 years old, 5 years old now. That's
Yeah,
interesting stuff.
a little bit over 5 years old. Yeah,
Hmm.
I, I like to I like to think about it like taking a slice of like lightly toasted bread and then smearing a little marmalade on top of it, because
Oh,
you do get a little bit of like those apricot tropical fruit
yeah,
notes.
yeah. That stone fruit, I should say. I said not tropical, but you're right. It's much more of that stone fruit side, which is something I love in bourbon, but it's sometimes hard to tease out behind you know some of the intensity of the other flavors, the spice and the wood and all that stuff.
Right.
This
And
is going to be a regular release, or this is available, just
so
pure.
the very first one is available in limited quantities, but the intention of Basil Hayden's Toast is for it to become a permanent member of the Basil Hayden's lineup.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, you know, so maybe the 2021 release was available, I mean, in limited quantities due to COVID and due to like production restraints and
Sure.
all that good stuff. But as we move on into next year,
It's got Booker's name right on the label too. Look at that, right
it
on the
does.
necker.
Yep.
Good
Founding
old
distiller, Booker now.
founding distiller. Well, that's interesting stuff. Right on, man. Well, can you tell me a little bit more about, how you would like use this? I think this could be fun in cocktails as well, for sure. What are
Yeah.
you doing? How are you drinking it?
So right now I'm just drinking it neat, but my favorite way of drinking Basil Hayden's toast right now is drinking it as some sort of like really light highball. I think it lends
Mm-hmm.
itself really well to just like it opens up really nicely when with a little like really high carbonation soda water, an orange twist. But I've used it for paper planes. I've used it in whiskey sours, like any classic cocktail that just needs a little bit more, another extra layer of depth. I
Mm.
think it just adds to it. So classically, I would go Knob Creek for a whiskey sour because it has that depth to hold up to the citrus. But I've been feeling like Basil Hayden's toast like can stand up to those flavors and just that extra roundness in the palate and those extra toasty notes like really elevate the cocktail and also create like a very crisp, clean, but also crispy cocktail that has like a really nice back note to it. One of the things that we've been doing that with the other ambassadors from the West Coast and central regions is that we've been making like aperitivo style cocktails with it. So it holds up really well when
Mm.
you add like Campari or Aperol, almost like
Mm-hmm.
Brit style. And especially
Mm-hmm.
on a
Yeah,
day
I
like
love it.
this, I'd love to have one of those later.
I'm with you, man. Where are we meeting? Uh, let's do that. I'm seeing a couple of decent questions here. Although I will note, Money asks, finished bourbons are a big thing in the craft distillery world. Cigar blend, toasted maple. Do we foresee Jim Beam venturing down that path? I have to say, Jim Beam's had their fair share of finishes over the years. Oftentimes as special releases and what have you, and you've got some interesting products that I guess aren't really finished. I guess in the case of the dark rye, it's actually, is that finished? No, it's actually wine added, right?
Poured wine added, yes, correct.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
I think that stuff is so fun. So that's a little bit different, but and not out of tradition for rye in general. But have you seen that more interest in within the company in terms of finishing bourbons? And obviously, we have the toast, which is a first core line finish coming. Is there any more of this coming down the line on the standard releases?
Yeah, I think across all categories with Beam Suntory, there's a really big interest in crossovers. So one of the big crossovers that was just released, and I know this is, I mean, it's still kind of tied into the whiskey world, was the El Tesoro Mundial, which was like a Lafroy finished
Yeah,
uh, tequila, reposado
yeah,
tequila.
for sure.
And at least for on our end from the James B. Beam Distilling Company, we will continue. It'll really be Basil Hayden's Basil Hayden really spearheading that idea of finishing in different barrels. We've got a couple new releases that are in the works in the next couple of months, in the first quarter of 2022, and I. I don't know if I can necessarily talk about it right now, but it will be
Okay.
a different finished barrel. So this is kind of our first step into finishing, and we thought that toast was a really good like jumping off point. The next one
Mm.
will be using a special technique. That's as much as I can
I
say.
like that.
Yeah. So
I
I'm
like
excited.
that.
I'm excited for you to taste it because it'll just
Cool.
build off on that classic, and that one will be classic Basil Hayden's. That's just additionally finished in something else.
The classic mash bill and some sort of barrel finish or whatever it may be. That's
Correct.
exciting.
Yeah.
When did you say exactly that?
That
I
that should
appreciate
be
you
in.
being
I was just on samples from the
generous.
distillery, so it should be something that's
Oh,
available in the first quarter of next year.
cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, that's awesome news. Andre asked a good question. He realizes that the B8, Basil Hayden is more for a target for an entry level uh, consumer, perhaps. But any plans to do anything with, maybe a little bit higher proof or anything like that, or is it sort of kind of sticking with that 80 proof thing?
So Basil Hayden's from its inception was always meant to be an 80 proof bourbon. Or an 80 proof whiskey, so it'll continue being 80 proof. I think if we see other finishes, they'll in any other capacity at a higher proof, we'll see them under a different label.
Okay,
Um,
cool. Yeah, you got
but
to make your choices. Marketing choices are important.
yeah,
Keeps
yeah,
people who know the brand loving it, and You know, there's tons of other great beam whiskey for people who want something that's 100 proof or plus.
Yeah,
With that in mind,
I think we'll see it in like things like possibly like the little books, or some of those other one-off releases. Like I'm sure that that's where, I mean, not that we have any confirmation of these things. This is all just speculative,
of
but
course.
I could see these things showing up in those in those brands.
And I'm personally a little bit interested in like how is the choice to make something like Basil Hayden toast? How does that work at Jim Beam? I know you've got the distillery, you've got the distiller, of course, Fred and Freddie, and then the marketing team, who they're the ones who are gonna have to sell it, and so they have to be on board. I assume it's some sort of collaborative process, but like, where is the idea? Like, hey, we have all that brown rice, you know, mash bill that we made. Was it someone 5 years ago going like, okay, we're gonna do this toasted barrel, in 5 years with this brown mash? We were like, what's the? Is it? It's like a chicken and the egg type of thing, but like, where does this? How does it work? Maybe that it's not. There's no answer to it. It just happens. But do you have any insight into the back
It
channel
really is. It
world?
really is a conversation that's had at the distillery. So we have these roundtable sessions where we like really spitball ideas about what can happen and where each brand is moving forward or moving towards. So Fred and Freddie will be present, and people will essentially pitch them ideas and say, "Hey, what if we experiment with this? What if we experiment with?" Um, uh, XYZ. That's how Little Book was incepted. Like that's where the inception of Little Book happened. Freddie was sitting around and he's like, I'm not ready to distill, but I would love to take some of the cool back stuff, like stuff that we have in our distillery, and blend it together into something delicious. So it's always been a conversation, and it's been a very open dialogue at the distillery to kind of come up with these things. And as far as my understanding with toast, somebody pitched that idea to Fred and Freddie, and they thought it was really cool. And so it wasn't that we had stock. It wasn't that we had back stock of rice whiskey. It was something that was created specifically for toast. Freddie worked with Riceland, which is a rice producer in Arkansas, to source a specific strain of American brown rice.
Wow.
For Basil Hayden's toast specifically.
So
we
this has been a half decade process of building this product. That's so interesting.
Yeah, it's been a long time. It's been in the works for a long time,
No
and
kidding.
so we
Very
get to
cool.
see it come to fruition now.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's really interesting stuff. I have to say, the if you ever sit on those meetings, all we want is OGD, single barrel, cast strength. That's all the world wants.
Me too.
But Basil Hayden toast is working. Yeah, I think it's funny because they've gone through the process of rebranding a bunch of things, a new bottle for Knob Creek, and new labels, and and obviously Booker has changed. Well, Booker's actually stayed pretty much the same in terms of the look, but
The
the
baker's got a new bottle.
Baker's got a new bottle. That's in big. We can finally sell Bakers. It's in. uh,
Yeah.
it was always delicious. That people were
It was.
like, "Oh, this bottle, I don't know." I'm like, just take the Bookers. But that's back when we had the Bookers available. Now it's a hot commodity. But
Right.
I have to say, the old line, the Old Crow and the old Granddad, they've just been like sitting in the background, like kind of doing their thing. And we're excited for them to give it the treatment, maybe give us some more. I don't know. You have any insight there? Are there any
It's
plans? It's in
100% of the works right now.
all right. I'm not
Yeah.
the only one
It's
who's bugging
Nope.
you about this.
No, we're definitely getting a lot of buzz around it, and you'll see it in 2022 or 2023. Like
Cool.
like we've got, yeah, the brand will be revamped, and I think everyone will be very happy with what they get.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I
Yeah.
know, single barrels are, so important to our business right now, and
Yep.
it's so difficult. Um, Someone's saying you need some Old Crow craziness. Old Crow is like such a, nobody talks about it anymore. It's such an important old brand. It sort of just sits there, and
Yeah, it's like a very
it's
historic
great
brand.
history there. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
was able
we're
to,
gonna start with like really we're gonna start with Old Overholt, and that's gonna kind of guide everything else.
yeah,
We're gonna start with that brand. They've been the teams, and Fred and Freddie have been working on Old Overholt for a while, so that'll be the first one that you see
Well, and just releasing the bonded product, I mean, that was a huge step up for us. I mean, that
Huge.
product is an incredible value, and it's so crushable and does so well in cocktails. I was lucky enough at one time, I don't know if you've ever been down there. I've been over there to the Frankfurt area, the first facility down there,
I have.
near Castle and Key. So if you go past them, there's the old Crow plant, and like
That's
some crazy guy like bought it, and it's
yeah.
it's nuts. And they were just like, yeah, go ahead, go walk through the old distillery, and it's incredible. I mean, it's obviously wildly dangerous. I know why it wasn't refurbished or anything like that, but it looks like I don't know, like Metropolis, the movie, like from the
Yeah, just
it's incredibly
definitely, yeah.
huge. I mean, it's huge. It's massive. So there's so much history there. I love that. I'd love to see that brand sort of come into its own in a high quality way. Old Overhauled has some nice changes. Okay, we've noted that. That's excellent. So there's going to be more fun Overhauled coming, and we'll have more olds coming. And anything else going on in the Jim Beam world that we should know about before I say sayonara and go make myself a Campari and toast here?
Yeah, a little spritz action. Well, first, thank you for having me. Any chance that I get to talk whiskey with anyone, bourbon with anyone, I'm excited to chat with you today about it. And
We're here every week, Edwin. You can come back whenever you want, man.
I'm gonna drop by in person next time. How about this? The next one we do, we'll do it in person.
Hell yeah. Let's do that. And even better, I'll one up you. We're going in spring to Kentucky,
Hmm.
and I'll insist that you join us. I'll make sure that Jim Beam is aware that Edwin must be on the trip. Why not?
Great. Any excuse for me to go to Kentucky, give it to me.
Oh my God, I can't wait.
Yeah.
Oh, here are more questions. Love the reintroduction of Old Tub. That's a sleeper, bottled neat or in cocktails.
Oh yeah.
Great.
Yep.
Yes.
Classic Jim Beam mash bill, just bonded.
100 proof. Yeah,
Yeah.
love it. Ultra aged Old Crow in an update Chessman decanter and Instagram ads will explode.
I read that. That
Oh,
was great. I had to hold back some
no way.
laughter
That'll
there.
never happen. Casey Single Barrel. We have a Casey Single Barrel in stock. No older stuff coming, guys. I think that's gone forever, but you never know. I mean, Knob Creek does not need to be 15 years to be absolutely incredible. It's incredible at 9 and 10 years old,
Mhm.
especially those single barrels at 120 proof.
We,
Although
we
I don't
are
know,
we are getting an older age statement for the 30th anniversary of small batch bourbons next year. So keep an eye.
oh,
Yeah.
wow, there you go. Dropping some knowledge there. Very cool.
Yeah.
And we're always, if you're not aware, anytime someone says, "Hey, you want single barrels?" Obviously, you know, Michael knows what I want, but
Right. Michael and I
there's
will
no limit. Yeah,
we'll
make
stay in
sure we're
touch.
always on top of that. So can pick a couple Booker rye barrels. Oh God, a 30-year-old. That's what I heard too, guys. Edwin said there's gonna be a 30-year-old bourbon.
No, no,
No.
no. Now that's going to be the big quote. 30th
30
anniversary of
year
small
30th
bat.
anniversary. 30-year-old. No. The internet is never wrong. The Casey single barrel was killer, right? It is proof down slightly. They usually, every time I've been there, when you get to taste them cast strength, they come out of the barrel 62, 63, maybe max 66 is what I've seen. There's not a lot of water being added in those Knob Creek barrels.
Yeah, it's just a
We've
tiny little bit.
just a sploosh there. And there you go. Whiskey
Yeah.
Badger's here. Hey, man.
But
Cool,
yeah,
man.
thank you.
Well,
Thank you for letting me
yeah.
chat about Basil Hayden's toast for a little while. And then, like I love going off on tangents. So, um, go out and pick up a bottle of Basil Hayden's toast from K&L. Go see
Yeah,
David.
hell yeah. We've got some right now. I mean, I have to say, it's been selling quick. I was very lucky that they were able to allocate us another little drop. It's a pretty fun little product. That rice mash bill, that toasted barrel. It's definitely not your regular old basil. And this first batch is quite limited, so jump on. A sploosh here. I always like the word sploosh. That's always a favorite. When not sipping Jim Beam, what's your next favorite, Edwin? Oh,
Ooh,
that's a heady subject.
El Tesoro tequila.
There you go. Oh my
Any
gosh.
day. Give me some
Oh,
tequila any day.
oh God.
It's
We have a couple of single barrels in stock right now that are absolutely insane. At the old price, oh my God. I mean, El Tesoro is one of the most traditionally undervalued brands, and they've raised the price recently, and people are like, what the hell? And I'm sort of like, it's still way too cheap. It should be twice the price.
I
It's
I agree. And
it's so
I was an
special.
El Tesoro drinker before I came on Beam. So just having that
Yeah,
it
so
be
you know
part of
your
the
shit,
family
Edwin,
is
obviously.
what was
Have you
that?
been down to You clearly know
I
your shit.
have,
I mean,
yeah.
it's
Yeah,
yeah,
I was just hanging out with
it's
Carlos Camarena last week. He was in New York with
ah
us. It was like I almost cried.
yeah, he's so fun to be around.
Yeah.
He's such a hoot. You should look our IG with him is pretty special. I don't know. You can go back. It was months and months ago, but we got him on here, and
I didn't know he was on. I'm definitely going to go
oh, he was
back
on.
and
Yeah, it was
any chance that I
great.
get to listen to that man speak, I'm in.
All day long, all day
Yeah.
long. You know what you really got to do? Google the. Have you ever seen the YouTube video? Oh my God, he's gonna hate me for saying this. There's a YouTube video of him with the original importer of El Tesoro, and he's like, I don't know, he can't even be 23 years old. It's exquisite, but it's gorgeous. I mean, his dad's there. It's fabulous. Very old school. Check that out. Highly
I
recommend.
definitely will.
Cool. This is pretty much. Let me know when you're headed to KY. Okay, yeah, probably April, guys. April. If we can get anybody to sell us barrels, we're going in April. It's looking good though. It's looking good.
Yeah.
And
You let me know, David, and by that time the new distillery, the new operations will be open, so you'll get a seat. You'll be one of the first
hell
to
yeah,
see all of that cool stuff.
hell yeah, and we'll put
Yeah.
it all up on here. Can't wait for that. This is so cool. Well, Edwin, it was great to see you, and I appreciate your time. And let's definitely get together soon, and uh, and enjoy a glass of El Tesoro together.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
All right,
Well, drink a little whiskey, drink a little tequila. How about that?
we'll do it all.
Cool,
All right, brother. Be well.
cool. Thanks for having me on today.